What if you walked into the wrong building for a job interview and walked out pretending to be a millionaire's girlfriend? She was broke, soaked in the rain, and had zero idea who he was. But 3 weeks later, she was living in his penthouse. By the time she realized she was falling for him, his mother showed up. With a check for $100,000 to make her disappear, she tore it in half. But then, she walked away. Want to know what happened next? This isn't just a love story. It's a story about knowing your worth, even when the world says you have none. It was pouring rain when Emily Sanders, soaked from head to toe, stood shivering outside what she thought was the address of Java Dream Cafe, a small neighborhood spot offering $15 hour and free espresso. She checked her phone again. 501 Madison Ave. The rain had smudged the ink on her printed resume, and the edges of the folder were curled like a bad decision. Her shoes squished, but her spirit still stubbornly upright. Inside the sleek, glass-covered lobby stood a towering logo, Grant & Wexler Capital. Emily blinked. Wow, this coffee shop got a glow-up, she mumbled, clutching her folder and trying not to trip on the marble floor. The receptionist looked her up and down, like she'd tracked mud onto the Sistine Chapel. Name, Emily Sanders, she said, trying to sound more confident than cold. Interview. Yup, I'm here for the 11:30. The receptionist, too confused or too bored to question her, handed her a visitor's badge and waved her toward the elevators. That was mistake number one. But in a city like New York, sometimes the biggest mistakes walk you straight into your fate. Emily rode up to the 42nd floor with a group of sleek-suited analysts. She tried to mimic their posture, smoothing her drenched blazer, ignoring the loud squelch every time she shifted weight. An assistant greeted her at the elevator and led her into a meeting room with frosted glass and a pitcher of water that looked like it cost more than her rent. "Someone will be with you shortly," the woman said, barely hiding her confusion. Emily sat, straightened her damp resume, took a deep breath, and whispered to herself, "Okay, this is just a bougie coffee chain. Maybe they do corporate catering." When the door opened, she stood quickly and nearly slipped on the tile. A man in a charcoal suit, no tie, sharp eyes, and a colder stare than the rain outside walked in. He didn't look up from his tablet. "You're Emily Sanders?" "Yes, that's me." "Interviewing for the assistant role?" he asked without emotion. Emily didn't flinch. "Yes, I'm amazing at managing espresso machines, negotiating napkin logistics, and solving latte foam crises. I once fixed a coffee grinder with a hair clip and hope." He slowly raised an eyebrow. "This is Grant & Wexler Capital, a private investment firm. This is an interview for a portfolio analyst assistant, not a barista." Silence. Emily blinked twice. Then, "You're saying there's no cappuccino machine?" There was an audible inhale from the assistant outside the room. "Do you know how you got here?" he asked, setting his tablet down for the first time. Emily looked around sheepish, then held up her phone. "The GPS was kind of fuzzy. I think I followed someone with a coffee bag. And to be fair, Grant sounds like a coffee brand. So does Wexler. Very artisanal." The man stared at her like she was a walking glitch in his algorithm. And then he did something unexpected. He laughed, just once, a short, surprised breath, like his face had forgotten how smiles worked. Emily, not realizing the significance, chuckled nervously. "I'm guessing I didn't get the job." He leaned back in the chair, watching her carefully now. "No, you didn't. But you did catch my attention." Unbeknownst to Emily, the man sitting across from her was Liam Grant, co-founder, majority shareholder, and one of the coldest names on Wall Street. Known for hostile takeovers and zero interest in anything that couldn't be quantified. Liam hadn't cracked a smile in his own building for over 4 fiscal quarters. But this girl who mistook his firm for a cafe and pitched love spreadsheets had just made him laugh in front of half his board. As Emily was politely ushered back to the elevator, still unaware she'd just spoken to the CEO, she sighed, mumbling to herself. "I told Mom I'd either come back with a job or a restraining order. Technically, I am still in the running for both." From the glass wall of his office, Liam Grant watched her leave, water still dripping from her hair, badge still around her neck, confidence dented, but somehow intact. He pressed his fingertips together, thinking, she walked in by mistake. but she didn't leave like one. And Liam Grant wasn't a man who believed in fate. But for the first time in years, he wanted to see someone again. Even if it meant rewriting the rules. Liam Grant never did anything impulsively. Numbers, first emotions, buried. But 2 days after a soaked, sharp-tongued Emily Sanders walked into his life, and the wrong company, he called her. From a private number. Because of course he did. "Hi, Emily, this is Liam Grant." A long pause on her end. "Grant. The guy from the non-coffee shop. Correct." Another pause. "Are you calling to offer me a job in hedge fund latte art?" "Not exactly. I need a favor, a personal one." That got her attention. Liam didn't explain everything over the phone, just that it was unusual, short-term, and profitable. Emily met him the next afternoon at a hotel lounge that smelled like power and espresso beans. He sat across from her in a dark blazer, emotionless as ever. "I need someone to pretend to be my girlfriend for 3 weeks. Public appearances. Dinner with my family, a charity gala. That's it." Emily stared. "I didn't realize finance came with a dating crisis clause. My mother," he said curtly, "is forcing me into a marriage arrangement with the daughter of a family friend. It's political, social, financial." "Oh," Emily nodded. "Classic rom-com nightmare." Liam didn't blink. "If I appear to be in a committed relationship, the pressure disappears. Temporarily." Emily folded her arms. "You want me to lie to your mother and the city's upper crust for 3 weeks? I'll pay you $10,000. You'll live in my apartment. We maintain the image in public. After that, we part ways." She leaned back. "I don't know how to fake affection. You seemed convincing enough in the interview." She grinned. "That wasn't acting. That was survival." A pause. Then, "I don't know how to love," Liam said, quiet but firm. "But I'm good at pretending I care." Emily's eyes narrowed. "I'm in," she said. "But I get the big bedroom." That Sunday, Emily moved into Liam's high-rise penthouse overlooking Central Park with nothing but a rolling suitcase, a box of loose tea, and a ridiculously colorful striped sweater. He watched her unload, as if she were unpacking chaos itself. "That sweater," he said. "Is that hand-knitted?" "It's emotional armor," she replied. "Don't knock it." The apartment was painfully minimalist. Gray tones, glass tables, books stacked by gradient. The silence echoed like judgment. Emily filled it with sound almost immediately. Her Spotify playlist included jazz 90s alt-rock and one cursed banjo track. She talked to herself when reading labeled the fridge shelves with Post-its and left her socks in very unapproved places. Liam had rules. Rule number 1, no questions after 10 p.m. Rule number 2, no calls on speaker. Rule number 3, no touching his espresso machine. She broke all 3 by Thursday. The first appearance was a family brunch at the Grant Estate in Connecticut. Emily, in borrowed heels and a borrowed smile, clutched Liam's arm as they stepped through the towering doors of his mother's colonial mansion. Margaret Grant greeted them with a kiss on Liam's cheek, then turned her ice-blonde gaze on Emily. "And you are Emily," stuck out her hand. "Emily Sanders, chaos consultant." Liam flinched. Emily grinned. At brunch, Emily pretended to like caviar and pretended not to notice Margaret analyzing her every move. When asked where they met, she said, "Elevator. He offered me sugar. I accepted. And here we are." Margaret raised one brow, but didn't object. Later that night, in the car back to Manhattan, Liam said, "You improvised. You didn't brief me. You called yourself a chaos consultant. Did it not feel accurate?" He didn't answer, but his lips twitched. Symbols began to build. Every morning, Emily made him coffee, always too cold. He never said a word, just drank it. The Thang Mai in their building always got stuck at the 6th floor one time, long enough for Emily to sing Bohemian Rhapsody in full, while Liam silently questioned his life choices. Her striped sweater started hanging on the hallway hook. It shouldn't have mattered, but he noticed when it was gone. At night, they watched TV on opposite ends of the couch. But the silence started to shift. Not cold, not distant, just safe. One night, she caught him standing on the balcony, staring into the skyline. "What do you see out there?" she asked. He didn't turn. "Things I can control." She stepped beside him. "And me," he hesitated. You're the variable. By the end of week 1, Emily had learned more about Liam through what he didn't say than what he did. He never talked about his father, always checked the locks twice. And when she left a drawing of 2 stick figures labeled us on the fridge, he didn't remove it. He kept it there, for days. And that meant something. But neither of them admitted it, not yet, because the deal still had 2 weeks left. And neither one was ready to break the rules, or realize how real things had already become. The plan was simple: fake smiles, shared space, public affection with a private wall, but somewhere between a morning coffee that wasn't cold for the first time and a Friday night rerun of Friends that neither of them really watched. The line between pretending and feeling started to vanish. One Thursday afternoon, Emily found Liam in the kitchen, shirt sleeves, rolled up tie, slightly loose, struggling to open a jar of almond butter. She leaned against the counter. "You know Billionaire doesn't mean jar opener immunity." He gave her a sideways glare. "You try." She did. "1 pop, easy." "You loosened it," she smirked, handing it back. Instead of firing back, he just looked at her. Longer than usual, quieter than usual, eyes softer, guard lowered. She looked away first. That weekend, they had to attend a formal gala hosted by the New York Arts Trust. Emily stepped out of the bedroom in a navy blue dress she borrowed from Liam's sister. Liam stood in the foyer, adjusting his cufflinks, until he saw her. He froze. "I look weird, don't I?" she asked, smoothing the side. "You look like someone I shouldn't be pretending with," he said. And it slipped. It wasn't a line. It wasn't calculated. It was real. And they both felt it. In the elevator on the way down, the air was thick, silent. And then, thump, the elevator shuddered, stuck. Floor 6, again. Emily rolled her eyes, of course. They stood in that narrow metal box for 5 whole minutes. Neither moved, neither spoke. Then, his hand brushed hers. Just barely. She didn't pull away. He didn't either. And suddenly pretending felt impossible. Later that night, after the gala, after applause and polite laughter and photographs of them holding champagne, they didn't drink. They returned to the apartment. It was nearly midnight. Emily kicked off her shoes. Liam loosened his tie. They both collapsed on the couch, just inches apart. A sitcom was playing in the background. Neither knew the episode. Her head leaned against the cushion. His hand rested beside hers. Then her fingers curled, touching his. She looked at him. He looked back. Neither smiled, but neither looked away. The next morning, everything was quieter. Not awkward, just delicate. Emily made coffee. Forgot to cool it. Liam drank it anyway. They sat across from each other at the table. She finally asked, "You ever actually love anyone, Liam?" He blinked, no expression, but his fingers curled slightly around the coffee cup. "My dad," he said, "when I was 9. That was the last time." Emily waited. She didn't push. He continued, voice flat. "He took me to a charity auction, introduced me to 3 women in front of my mom. I didn't realize what it meant until years later." Pause. "I haven't liked parties since." Silence. Then Emily said, almost whispering, "My dad died when I was 17. Stroke. My mom lost it for a year. I worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat." Liam looked up. "I didn't even make it to college," she added, "but I make a killer grilled cheese. So there's that." He didn't smile, but his eyes said everything. That night, she brought 2 mugs of tea to the balcony. New York buzzed below them like it always did, cold, bright, fast. Liam took the mug, didn't speak. Emily leaned on the railing, her hair caught in the wind. "I like the quiet up here," she said. "Feels like nothing bad can reach us." Liam didn't respond right away. Then, "Or, like everything bad is waiting right outside." She turned to him. "I think you're scared of feeling things." He stared at her. "I think I'm scared of losing things I didn't mean to keep." The next few days, their rhythm changed. They still maintained the act in public photo ops, charity dinners, brunches with his mother. But when they got home, they didn't go to opposite sides of the couch anymore. They sat close, shoulders touching. One night, Emily fell asleep, leaning against Liam's arm. He didn't move, not for an hour. He just watched her breathe, like something fragile, like something real. But with every touch, every late-night conversation, came the fear, the kind that doesn't scream, the kind that whispers, "What if this ends?" Because the deal was still real. 3 weeks, 3 appearances, one goodbye, and they were halfway through. Emily began avoiding his gaze. Liam went back to triple-checking locks. Even the elevator, that stupid elevator, stopped getting stuck. Like the universe was reminding them, this was borrowed, not owned. But neither one dared say it. Because once they admitted what they were feeling, there'd be no going back. It was only a matter of time before Margaret Grant made her move. She'd smiled at Emily in public, thin, polite, and brittle, like glass. But under that calm exterior was a woman who'd built empires, crushed rivals, and never let anything unpredictable near her son's future. Especially not a girl like Emily. One Wednesday morning, after Emily had left for a grocery run, Margaret walked unannounced into the penthouse. The doorman didn't even hesitate. Her name was practically etched into the granite. Liam wasn't home. But Margaret didn't need him. She scanned the apartment. Post-it notes on the fridge. Striped sweater on the couch. 2 mugs, one with lipstick, one without. She frowned. That afternoon, Emily got a message from Liam's assistant, Ms. Grant, would like to meet. 3 p.m., Hotel Lancaster, private suite. Emily didn't hesitate. She showed up exactly on time, wearing a simple blue dress, no makeup, chin high. Margaret was already seated, legs crossed, a crisp folder on the table. "Thank you for coming," Margaret said, pouring herself tea. She didn't offer Emily any. Emily sat down. "Let's not pretend this is casual." Margaret gave a tight smile. "I've done my research. Your mother filed for bankruptcy 3 years ago. Lost her home. You worked 3 jobs. No college degree. No pedigree." Emily held her stare, and Margaret slid the folder across the table. Inside, a legal agreement, a non-disclosure clause, and a check for $100,000. All you have to do is disappear. No drama, no questions, just walk away. Emily didn't touch the paper. She leaned in, voice low but steady. "You think I'm here for money?" "No," Margaret replied. "I think you're here because you don't belong here. And my son, he doesn't see clearly when he's cornered, emotionally." Emily's hand trembled. She clenched it into a fist. Then she picked up the check, tore it in 2, then 4, then 8. "I can be poor," she said quietly, "but I won't be bought." She stood, looked Margaret in the eye. "You're scared because Liam's heart is changing, and for the first time, it's not under your control." Then she walked out. But Margaret had planted a seed, and Emily felt it growing the second she stepped outside that hotel. She rode the subway back to the apartment. The lights overhead flickered. Her reflection in the glass was tired, shaken. Inside the penthouse, Liam had just come home, jacket over his shoulder, phone in hand. He smiled when he saw her, but Emily's face was unreadable. "Everything okay?" he asked. She nodded too quickly. "Yeah, just tired." But something had shifted. Her eyes didn't linger. Her hands didn't reach. And when he offered her coffee, she didn't take it. That night, Emily stood by the balcony for hours. The city lights blurred in her vision. Liam joined her, leaning next to her. "Talk to me," he said. She didn't look at him. "Your mom came to see me." Silence. "She offered me $100,000 to leave." More silence. "And you're still here?" he asked, unsure. "I'm still here," she said, "but I don't know if I should be." Liam's voice dropped. "Are you saying this is over?" She finally looked at him. "No, I'm saying you're stuck between 2 lives, and I don't want to be the one tearing them apart." He reached for her hand. She pulled away. That was the moment it broke. The next morning, Emily was gone. No goodbye, no note. Just her striped sweater, folded neatly on the couch, and the mug she always used, rinsed and turned upside down in the sink. Liam stood in the living room silent. For the first time in years, the apartment felt cold. Not sterile, just empty. And for a man who built walls of logic and ceilings of control, he finally understood what loss felt like. Emily Sanders disappeared like a whisper. No note, no call, no trace, just gone. The striped sweater, the one Liam used to roll his eyes at, was the only thing she left behind. folded on the couch with unsettling care, as if she knew that tiny act would echo louder than 1,000 goodbyes. Liam came home that night, expecting to see her sitting by the window, or curled on the couch, or dancing barefoot in the kitchen to her ridiculous playlists. But there was only stillness. He called her name once, then again, then louder, nothing. The apartment, once chaotic and warm, now felt like a museum, clean, cold, lifeless. The next few days blurred. At work, Liam showed up on time, left on time, spoke only when required. No quips, no outbursts, no spark. His assistant whispered to a colleague, "He hasn't touched his espresso machine in 3 days." Someone else added, "And he skipped the investor meeting." Liam never skips. The man who once controlled every detail of his world now moved like a ghost inside it. One night, just past 2 a.m., Liam stood in the kitchen, unable to sleep. The city buzzed outside, but inside, silence. Not the kind that soothes, the kind that suffocates. He opened a cabinet out of habit, and there it was, Emily's mug, still on the top shelf, the one she insisted was her official morning mug. Ceramic chipped slightly on the rim, painted with an ugly sunflower she claimed gave Friday energy. Liam took it down, held it for a moment, then opened another drawer. The striped sweater. Somehow it had ended up beneath a stack of old files. Still smelled faintly of citrus and whatever strange lavender spray she used. He sat at the kitchen island, mug in one hand, sweater in the other, completely still. For the first time in weeks, he made coffee. Didn't add sugar. Didn't check the temperature. Just poured. Sat. Sipped. It was cold. He didn't flinch. He didn't throw it out. Because that's how Emily always made it. And somehow, for the first time, the cold felt real. It hurt. Outside, New York kept spinning. Deadlines came and went. Emails flooded. People asked questions he didn't answer. Even his mother noticed. Margaret called twice. Left voicemails. Liam, the McAllisters, asked about the holiday gala. "Are you attending, Liam? There's a board dinner Thursday. Liam, are you all right?" No reply. Because how do you explain losing something you never officially had? The worst part? He didn't even know where she went. Did she go back to her old apartment? Did she leave the city? He didn't dare send anyone to check. Didn't want to feel like a hunter chasing what wasn't his. Because deep down, he understood. She didn't leave because she was weak. She left because he didn't fight. Didn't choose her over comfort, over silence, over his mother. And now all he had were the fragments. The mug with her faded lipstick print. The post-it still stuck behind the coffee grinder that said, "Drink this, or I riot." The damn elevator that still got stuck on floor 6, like it remembered her singing to him while he cursed under his breath. The apartment didn't just feel empty. It felt wrong, like something sacred had been uprooted. And Liam? He didn't even try to fix it, because part of him believed he didn't deserve to. But another part, the part Emily had somehow awakened, refused to let go. Not yet. 2 months passed. Winter crept into New York like an apology, quiet and heavy. The skyline stayed the same, but Liam Grant had changed. He still wore suits, still went to meetings. But now, when he walked into a room, people no longer fell silent in awe. They just wondered when he'd start talking again. Because he didn't. Not really. Not since her. One Friday afternoon, Liam's assistant slid a flyer across his desk. Tech Start Women's Conference, Midtown. Saturday, 2:00 p.m. Someone's presenting under Emily S. A pause. "She's on the list. I checked twice." Liam didn't ask for details. He was already grabbing his coat. The conference was small. Nothing like the galas he used to attend. No crystal chandeliers. No red carpet. Just folding chairs, folding tables, and folding dreams, trying to stand back up. Liam slipped in quietly, standing near the back. His heart pounded for the first time in weeks, not from fear, but from the possibility she might still care enough to speak. Then he saw her, on stage, wearing black jeans, a blazer too big for her, and that familiar confidence wrapped in humility. She looked stronger, lighter, like she'd found her own gravity again. The moderator introduced her Emily Sanders, former hospitality worker. now founder of Rooted, a nonprofit focused on economic resilience for women. Applause, then silence. She stepped up to the mic. When I applied for my first job in Manhattan, Emily began, voice calm but firm. I showed up soaking wet, completely unqualified, and accidentally walked into the wrong building. Laughter. Liam almost smiled. That day I learned something people love resumes, but what really matters doesn't fit on paper. She glanced across the room and saw him. Her breath caught for half a second, but she kept going. I've met billionaires who couldn't describe joy, and janitors who could teach a masterclass in empathy. Value isn't always quantifiable, and sometimes what looks like failure is just a disguise for a beginning. She closed with this: never underestimate what someone carries inside them, especially when the world has told them they don't belong. The room erupted, but Liam couldn't move. He wasn't just watching her, he was remembering. Remembering the girl who argued with his espresso machine, the girl who sang in broken elevators, the girl who tore up $100,000 and said, "I'm not for sale." And someone else had been watching too. Margaret Grant stood across the room. She hadn't told Liam she was coming. She'd heard whispers about Emily's nonprofit, about her speech. Something had drawn her there. And now she saw what her son had seen. Not a mistake, not a liability, a fire. Margaret's eyes followed Liam as he stepped forward, as the crowd thinned, as Emily walked off stage. He hesitated. Just once. But before he could speak, Margaret got there first. Emily. Emily turned, stunned. "Mrs. Grant." Margaret looked her straight in the eye. "I judged you by what you lacked, not what you brought." Silence. Margaret took a breath. "My son used to walk through life half asleep. You woke him up. That's more than I ever managed." Emily didn't know what to say. Margaret smiled gently for the first time. "That's enough. For me." And then she walked away. Emily barely had time to breathe before Liam was there, standing in front of her eyes, wide voice trembling just enough. "You disappeared." "I had to," she whispered. "You needed to choose without me standing in the way." "I didn't choose anything," he said. "That was the problem." A beat. "I thought I had everything mapped out," he added, "until you walked in, soaking wet, rambling about coffee and chaos, and turned my entire system upside down." He stepped closer. "And I liked it." She smiled, tears forming. "Liam." But he cut her off softly. "You don't have to play anyone. No more pretending. No more roles." He reached for her hand finally fully. "Just be you. That's already enough to wreck me." Emily didn't answer. She didn't need to. She stepped into his arms, and this time she didn't let go. Not for pretending, not for show, but because this time it was real. 3 weeks after the conference, Emily found a message stuck to her apartment door. Just one yellow post-it scribbled in Liam's handwriting. "Come with me, don't ask. Floor 6, 5:30 p.m. She smiled. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't fancy, but it was him. At exactly 5:29, Emily stepped into the Grant and Wexler elevator for the first time in months. Alone, nervous. As the metal doors closed and the lift began to rise, it predictably jolted to a stop at floor 6. Stuck. She didn't panic, didn't press the emergency button, because when the lights flickered and reset, Liam was already there, leaning against the opposite wall, hands in his coat pockets, eyes impossibly warm. "Really?" she asked, half laughing. "You staged an elevator malfunction?" Liam shrugged. "I bribed maintenance with Nick's tickets. Worth every cent." She shook her head. "You're insane." He stepped closer, closing the small space between them. "No, I'm in love," he said. "Which is worse, I've been told." Her breath caught. But he didn't drop to one knee, didn't pull out a velvet box. Instead, he reached into his coat pocket and took out a tiny paper ring, folded from one of her old post-its, slightly crumpled, imperfect, completely him. He held it between them. "I want to start simple," Liam said, "because the truest things never need diamonds to prove their worth." Her eyes welled up. "This ring won't impress your friends," he added, "but I hope the life we build does." Silence. "Then marry me." Emily Sanders, elevator stuck or not, "I'm not going anywhere." She laughed through the tears, took the paper ring, slipped it on. It fit perfectly. Then she kissed him hard, fast, real. That elevator never moved again. But their story did. 2 months later, the rooftop of their apartment building was transformed. Not with flowers or chandeliers, but with strings of white lights. Recycled coffee mugs turned into centerpieces, and a long table draped in striped linens, a tribute to her sweater, now lovingly stitched into a banner that read, "Perfect doesn't matter. Real does." Only 20 people were invited. No press, no photographers, just them. Their people, their truth. Emily wore a short ivory dress and combat boots. Her hair was half up pinned with tiny paper cranes. Liam had folded himself. Liam ditched the tux, went with a dark blue suit and a crooked tie. Emily fixed it before they walked out. Margaret sat in the front row. When the officiant asked if anyone had anything to say, she stood up. Everyone froze. She smiled. "My son didn't pick the safest woman, or the wealthiest, or the one with the most impressive LinkedIn." She turned to Emily. "He picked you. Because you made him feel. And live. And laugh again." Her voice softened. "Perfection is a lie. But love like this is the truth." Emily's hands shook. Liam's eyes glistened. The crowd clapped. Someone sobbed. Possibly his assistant. They exchanged vows. Messy, honest, unrehearsed. "Emily, I thought I needed to prove I belonged. Turns out, I just needed someone who saw me before the world did." Liam, "I've made a living predicting outcomes. But nothing, not even my best spreadsheets prepared me for you." When the ceremony ended, they didn't throw rice or petals. They clinked mismatched mugs of coffee cold on purpose and toasted to a love that refused to follow scripts. Their first dance, not under chandeliers, but under stars. On a rooftop where their story began. The wind tugged at her dress. His shoe scuffed hers. They laughed. It was perfect, because it wasn't. Later that night, as guests filtered out, Emily leaned against the railing, watching the city twinkle below. Liam joined her arms, slipping around her waist. "I still can't believe you said yes to a post-it ring," he whispered. "I still can't believe you bribed a maintenance guy." They both laughed. Then he pulled her closer. "I know one thing," he said. "If we ever get stuck again," she smiled, "you'll climb out through the top panel and call a helicopter." He kissed her temple. "No, I'll just hold your hand tighter. And wait, because sometimes the most extraordinary love stories begin with a mistake and end with a choice. A quiet, stubborn, wildly imperfect choice to stay. Sometimes the greatest turning points in life don't come from planning. They come from accidents, wrong turns, and moments we never expected. Emily didn't walk into the right office. She didn't have the right resume. But she had heart, grit, and authenticity, and that changed everything. This story reminds us that your worth isn't measured by your bank account, your last job, or the zip code you live in. What truly matters is how you show up for yourself and others, even when the world doubts you. When life puts you in an elevator stuck on the 6th floor. Maybe it's not failure. Maybe it's fate telling you pause. Look around. This is where you start. So don't chase perfection. Choose real. Choose messy. Choose love that doesn't make sense on paper but feels right in your bones. What about you? Have you ever taken a wrong turn that changed your life? Share your story in the comments. We read every one. And if this made you feel something, hit subscribe for more stories that inspire surprise and stick with you long after the credits roll.